Tonight on First at 9 this Sunday the 16th of February 2025. Walking the tightrope, President Anwar Dissanayake all set to present the 2025 budget to Parliament tomorrow. Watch out! The central bank warns of potential price hikes on goods due to rising private sector wages, emphasizes that the effective implementation of planned government policies will drive economic growth. Affirmation. Minister of Foreign Affairs reaffirms Sri Lanka's commitment to secure a stable, sustainable and prosperous Indian Ocean region at the 8th Indian Ocean Conference. Smashing targets. Sri Lanka welcomes over 115,000 tourists in the first 2 weeks of February 2025, setting a strong momentum for the tourism sector.
Chilo Dairy, Sri Lankawama Kiren Perata. ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
කන්ට පරිස්සම් කරගත්තොත් අපි පරිස්සම්.
Asian Paints Causeway Aquasafe වැස්සත් මට්ටුයි ගෙදරත් තිස්නේ.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Derana First at 9. I'm Aditya Singh joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Brought to you by the only Sri Lanka media network to rise to the pinnacle across all media platforms, recognized as the best by every survey and beloved by the people. Now in your top story tonight, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Employment and Tourism Vijitha Herath reiterated that Sri Lanka remains committed to collaborate with all stakeholders within and beyond the Indian Ocean region to achieve the vision of a secure, stable and sustainable and prosperous Indian Ocean region for the benefit of all. He made these comments while speaking at the first plenary session of the Indian Ocean Conference today. The Foreign Affairs Minister further highlighted that Sri Lanka is committed to the United Nations Agreement on conserving marine biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction, aiming to protect marine biodiversity in areas beyond national jurisdiction. Themed Voyage to New Horizons of Maritime Partnership, the 8th edition of the Indian Ocean Conference, inaugurated in Muscat, Oman yesterday. Organized by the India Foundation in association with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Oman, the conference aims to build new partnerships in the maritime sector while strengthening collaboration among nations to address shared challenges, enhance connectivity and promote sustainable development in the region. During the conference, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Employment and Tourism Vijitha Herath addressed the first plenary session of the conference today.
The theme of this plenary, Voyage of New Horizons of Maritime Partnership, is of particular significance to us in Sri Lanka. To our minds, the Port of Colombo is an excellent manifestation of new horizon in maritime partnerships. And Sri Lanka remains committed to strengthening maritime connectivity through port development, logistics, and maritime services, enhancing its position as a key hub in the Indian Ocean. Sri Lanka's vision for the Indian Ocean is one of shared destiny, where nations rise above rivalry to protect freedom of navigation and foster stable and sustainability, prosperity based on cooperation, and find peaceful solutions to all issues. It is essential that we strengthen regional security architectures, enhance maritime domain awareness, and promote joint exercises and capacity building initiatives. By doing so, we can create a resilient maritime environment that deters threats and fosters peace. As a strategically located island nation, Sri Lanka seeks to harness the ocean's economic potential while benefiting from Asia's rising prosperity. We recognize the importance of networking between countries and agencies to address common challenges and seize opportunities. Enhanced information sharing and cooperative mechanisms are crucial for effective maritime governance. As the current chair of the Indian Ocean Rim Association, we reiterate the significance of fostering partnership with regional and international stakeholders and aim to contribute to collective efforts in ensuring maritime security, environment, sustainability, and economic prosperity. Sri Lanka is committed to the BBNJ agreement on conserving maritime biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction. This treaty ensures equitable access to maritime resources while strengthening regional cooperation on sustainable ocean governance. Sri Lanka looks forward to leveraging this framework to enhance capacity building, research and technology transfer, reinforcing its commitment to protecting the high seas for future generations. I want to reiterate that Sri Lanka stands ready to collaborate with all stakeholders working towards realizing the vision of a secure, stable, sustainable and prosperous Indian Ocean region for the benefit of all.
පිරිපුන් ජීවිතයකට ඔබ සමගින් පෙරට Union Assurance.
Welcome to Cinnamon Life, South Asia's biggest entertainment hub, where awe awaits.
චන්දුරුසුමේ කාගෙත් මනාපේ සිංහ TV සඳහා සුපිරි ඩීල්. Sadaharita Plantations Limited, celebrating 22 years of your trust.
Don't waste time. Start your degree with pending A-level results this February with our partner universities. Call ACBT on 0117 699 499.
Sri Lanka will host the inaugural Innovation Island Summit this month with the attendance of 150 participants from 50 nations. The summit will explore the transformative dynamics of island nations, the innovations emerging from them and their international impact. A keynote from the top officials of the Sri Lankan government will be included in the inaugural session of the upcoming summit. Ministers, parliamentarians, senior officials and leading subject matter experts from around the world will take part in the summit's panels and roundtable discussions. The event, which is hosted by the Observer Research Foundation in collaboration with the High Commission of India in Colombo and the Capital Maharaja Group, will take place in Colombo from the 21st to the 22nd of February. Now, with the budget 2025 around the corner, Professor Siri Hettige, Professor Emeritus of Sociology of the University of Colombo, says that the government should focus on the demand of the majority in the society when presenting the budget for the year 2025, which is scheduled to take place tomorrow. Professor Hettige says food security, transport and education must be the main focuses of the budget in order to provide more relief to low-income families of the country as Sri Lanka recovers from an acute economic crisis.
In the present context, I think it is necessary that we always keep in mind certain priorities. I think given the present social and economic circumstances in the country, we certainly have to take into account the needs of a large majority of the population. Now, I have a feeling that we have to concentrate on a few areas. In particular, food security, I think, is a major one. And there we have to figure out, how we could reduce the burden that food sector has imposed on low-income people. Health sector is a major one because health is a need that you cannot really avoid. It's a necessity. You have to have medical treatment when you are sick, and the access to quality health care not available across the country, as you all know. We have a great inequality in the health sector itself. Transportation is again another major problem. As we all know, our public transport system has deteriorated over time, over the last several decades, and this has created the demand for private transport. And of course, the low-income people have no choice. Finally, I think the education sector is very, very critical because in this country, even in remote areas, the parents, even low-income parents, want to have their children being given a good education. But then again, education sector is also quite diverse today, and inequality in education is also quite significant. In remote areas, the rural schools not providing quality education, and as a result, parents, even when they don't have really have to rely on private tuition. Economic and social pressures are so great, and naturally one of the main objectives of any government should be actually to reduce these pressures.
Fast track your career from O levels with eSoft.
Diabetesol, සීනි වලින් පරිස්සම් වන ඔබට අමතක නොවන පෝෂණය.
Single 1111 up to 60% off from the 11th November to the 17th of November.
Kalani wire කිසිගින්නක් නෑ.
කිසිගින්නක් නෑ. Kalani Fire Shield Wire.
Now, Prime Minister Dr. Harani Amarasuriya claims that an education council will be set up to oversee quality control in teaching as part of broader government efforts to improve education in the country. Speaking at an event in Jaffna, the Premier hinted at a salary hike across the board within the public sector and called on all teachers to show an increased commitment to teaching in exchange for the increase in resources. Prime Minister Dr. Harani Amarasuriya ceremonially declared open the renovated library of the Kopai Teachers College in Jaffna.
I think we all agree that reforming the education sector should be a crucial part of any development program of a country. There is no way that we can achieve the development that we desire and so want for our country if we do not invest in education. For our government, investing in education and reforming education is a key priority. In that education reform program, our intention is to make sure that no child is left behind. In this program, as you know, teachers are a key resource. In the ministry, when we were reviewing the different programs that were undertaken in the past several years with regard to education reform, I think the Secretary and I were shocked to find out that curriculum reform in the teacher education sector has not happened for 15 years or more. So we are developing modern curriculum for the students, but the teachers who are expected to deliver the curriculum are still being trained on outdated curriculum. We want to also ensure that the professional value or the quality of our teaching profession is enhanced. With that in mind, we are planning to introduce an education council that will be responsible for uplifting, protecting and strengthening the quality of the different services within education. We also know that you are dealing with a lot of salary issues, but there are other parts that have not yet been fulfilled. In the budget that we will be presenting next year across the board for the public sector, we think there will be some good news for all of you. But you have to also understand that when we are increasing these resources, increasing the investment we make in you, we also want that commitment to teaching and to the education reform process. So let's work together, because without this commitment to education, we will never be able to create the kind of country that we want for ourselves or for our future generations. So I appeal to all of you to come together, to join with us and make this process a reality.
Now, the 2025 government budget is scheduled to be presented to Parliament tomorrow, marking the first budget to be presented by President Anura Dissanayake since assuming the President's office. The budget speech or the second reading of the appropriation bill will be made tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. by the President, exercising his powers vested in him as the Minister of Finance. Meanwhile, this year's estimation for government expenditure saw a significant reduction of 2.7 trillion rupees compared to that of last year. On the 9th of January this year, Prime Minister Dr. Harani Amarasuriya presented the appropriation bill to allocate funds for government expenditure for the 2025 fiscal year. The budget speech or the second reading of the appropriation bill will be made tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. by the President, exercising powers vested in him as the Minister of Finance. The government's expenditure for the period from the 1st of January to the 31st of December 2025 is estimated at 4.2 trillion rupees. This marks a significant decrease compared to the estimated government expenditure for Sri Lanka's budget 2024, which stood at around 6.9 trillion rupees. Meanwhile, on the 13th of January, a preliminary discussion on the final phase of drafting the upcoming budget was held at the Presidential Secretariat under the patronage of the President. According to government sources, this year's budget will include proposals to achieve the future development goals of the country, as well as proposals aimed at enabling all sections of the country to participate in the economic process. In addition, special attention will also be given to raise tax revenues through Budget 2025. Accordingly, the debate on the second reading is scheduled to run from the 18th to the 25th of February for a total of 7 days. Subsequently, the vote on the second reading will be held on the 25th of February at 6 p.m. The committee stage debate on the appropriation bill will be held for 19 days, including 4 Saturdays from the 27th of February to the 21st of March. The vote on the third reading of the bill is scheduled to take place on the 21st of March at 6 p.m. Against this backdrop, the final draft of Budget 2025 was presented to President Dissanayake today for presidential review at the Presidential Secretariat. According to the President's office, President Dissanayake and Finance Secretary Mahinda Siriwardana engaged in discussions focusing on the key fiscal priorities of the year ahead. President Anura Disanayake's budget speech will be telecast live on TV Derana and other Derana 24 channels tomorrow. Now, as the entire country eagerly waits to listen to the President's budget speech in Parliament tomorrow, let's see what politicians across the political spectrum think of Budget 2025.
ජනතාවාදී අයවැයක්.
Everyone will be able to see a citizen-centric budget this Monday. Let's all get together and work without losing hope to realize our aspirations.
බලාපොරොත්තු ඉටු කර ගැනීම වෙනුවෙන් සියලු දෙනා එකට එකතු වෙලා වැඩ කරමු.
පට්ටපල් බොරු කියපු.
This government consists of chronic liars who also happen to be incompetent. We cannot progress with them any further. Forget looking after citizens. They seem to have completely forgotten their own MPs. A group of government MPs will defect before this year ends. They will cross over because some of them don't even have a vehicle to travel in, a house to live in, or a way to feed themselves. They don't even have a salary. They might be kicked out of their own houses.
අන්තිමට ගෙවල් වලින් මේගොල්ලන් එළියට දායි.
ඒගොල්ලෝ දැන් මෙතන හැඳි ගෑවිලා ගිහලා තියෙන්නේ.
They have lost all political hope. We are now planning to develop a country which has been decimated. The truth is that if you look at this with ill intentions, this is bad. However, if anyone looks at this with good intentions, particularly with the intention of developing this nation, it is evident that the country is resurging.
මැත්තෙන් බැලුවොත් ඕනම කෙනෙකුට රට කොට නැගලකට දැනෙනවා.
දැන් තමයි ආණ්ඩුවේ ලිට්මස් පරීක්ෂාව.
This will be a litmus test for the government. The general public will be able to see how well they deliver. We look forward positively, hoping that they deliver on their promises.
ධනාත්මක මානසිකත්වයෙන් තමයි අපි ඉන්නේ.
මේක මීඩියා අයවැයක් නෙමෙයි.
This budget is not for the media. This budget is not aimed at an election. This budget will be the first step through which we lay the foundation to what we hope to achieve with the mandate vested in us.
මූලික අඩිතාලම තමයි මේ අයවැය දාන්නේ.
තුනුපොල් කට්ට මිලත් වැඩි වෙලා තියෙන්නේ.
The prices of coconut shells have also increased. The price of coconuts have shot up to its highest in history. There is no point even talking about this. People have been rendered hopeless. They secured power by claiming to deliver unimaginable progress within 6 months. However, we can see no such thing. We only see incompetence.
නොහැකියාවමනේ පේන්නේ.
අයවැය ඉදිරිපත් කරද්දී උපදෙස් දෙන්න පටන් ගන්න තියෙනවා.
Now they have started to advise us on how to draft the budget. Had they taken their own advice in the past and drafted budgets accordingly, then the country would not be where it is right now. They have forgotten the plight of the country we took over.
මම හිතන්නේ ඒගොල්ලෝ අමතක කරලා තියෙනවා අපි බාරගත්තේ මොන රටක්ද කියලා.
දීපු බලාපොරොත්තු සියල්ලම.
All the promises made by the incumbent government ride on the back of this budget. People expect the 33% wage hike promised through this budget.
ජනතාව බලාපොරොත්තුෙන් ඉඳී.
හොඳ වැටුප් වැඩිවීමක් කරන්නත් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
We do hope to increase salaries through this budget. However, we will not pursue the same traditional mode of providing wage hikes. We will increase the basic salary. Since, for the first time in history, we have cut down on privileges enjoyed by MPs, we can present a budget aimed at uplifting the general public's standard of living. We are sure you will be able to see how well we can draft a budget.
හදන හැටියට ටිකක් බලා ගන්න පුළුවන් කියලා අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා.
Now, with the budget around the corner, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka has stated that the wage increases in the private sector could lead to further price hikes throughout the year as businesses pass on these costs to consumers. In its monetary policy report for February 2025, the financial regulator further claims that while the government has promised various measures to alleviate the public's elevated cost of living, the timing and magnitude of these anticipated price revisions remain uncertain. In its monetary policy review report for February, the central bank notes that the sustained impact of diminished purchasing power could suppress demand conditions for a longer period than anticipated, thereby exerting downward pressure on prices. The CBSL also highlights that the wage increases in the private sector could lead to further price hikes as businesses pass these costs on to consumers. Additionally, if realized, the risk of deviations from the projected fiscal consolidation path could contribute to inflationary pressures through increased government spending. Considering the global situation, the CBSL pointed out that policy changes in the United States have heightened upside risks to US inflation, driven by tariff increases on imported items and measures that could tighten labor markets. Consequently, global uncertainty regarding food and energy prices remains, with the possibility of future global price hikes. Major policy changes in the US could result in fluctuations in global trade, investment, capital flows, growth and inflation, factors that are critical to Sri Lanka's external sector. On the positive side, the CBSL noted that the successful completion of the debt restructuring process and a potential sovereign rating upgrade could spur growth through improved investor sentiment and the likely relaxation of certain credit constraints. If the government effectively implements its planned policies, the CBSL said that these policies could directly support the relevant sectors, while potential improvements in the business environment and governance could enhance the economy's growth potential. Further, any faster than expected improvements in tourism and related sectors could contribute to improved economic activity. Meanwhile, with the activity pickup related to large capital infrastructure developments, a boost in economic activity could be witnessed, leading to higher growth. Overall, risks to growth projections in both the near term and the medium term are assessed to be balanced. The national organizer of the Samaga Jana Balawegaya Tissa Attanayake announced that he will withdraw from future discussions between the Samaga Jana Balawegaya and the United National Party aimed at possible reunification between the two parties. Meanwhile, a new political movement was launched today with the participation of former parliamentarians, including Mahinda Amaravira, Iran Vikramaratne, Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca, Professor Ashumara Singha and P.L. Nishantha.
The Executive Committee of Samaga Jana Balawegaya took the decision to discuss the possibility of a political unification between its party and the United National Party last month. Accordingly, a committee was set within the SJB consisting of party's General Secretary along with 6 other members to deliberate and discuss the matter. Even though several discussions were held between the committee and the United National Party, the national organizer of the Samaga Jana Balawegaya, Tissa Attanayake, announced that he will no longer participate in future discussions on the proposed unification.
I saw how certain teams within our party insult me, along with the party's General Secretary and the Chairman, by sharing posts on social media. We are very disappointed. Therefore, I will not participate in future discussions on this matter until the Executive Committee of the SJB takes a decision regarding the party's stance. We implemented a program which was approved by the party and its leader.
කවදාකවත් පක්ෂයක් උස්සන්න පුළුවන්ද? ඒ කියන්නේ ඉදිරි පළාත් පාලන මැතිවරණයට එහෙම එක්වීමක් සිදු වෙන්නේ නැද්ද එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂෙත් එක්ක? නෑ තාම අපි සම්බන්ධව අවසාන තීන්දුවකට ඇවිල්ලා නැහැ. අවසාන මොහොත දක්වා අපි නම් කල්පනා කරනවා.
Until the end, we hope for a reunion between the UNP and the SJB to bolster right-wing politics. I strictly believe that both leaders must take a step back for the sake of the reunion. The unification must be achieved through mediation. However, we cannot see that happening from both sides. There are 2 individuals from the SJB and 1 within our party who attempt to sabotage this effort. Ironically, all their names start with L.
Meanwhile, a new political movement was introduced in Colombo today titled Movement for Democracy, National Security, One Law for All and Against Corruption, Fraud and Abuse. The movement was inaugurated with the participation of former parliamentarians including Mahinda Amaravira, Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca, Professor Ashumara Singha, Iran Vikramaratne and P.L. Nishantha.
Now in other local news, a total of 13 out of 17 Sri Lankans who were forcibly detained in cybercrime camps in Myanmar have reportedly been rescued. The rescued individuals include 11 young men and 2 young women, all between the ages of 20 and 30. These individuals will be transferred from the Thai border to the Sri Lankan embassy in Bangkok. Arrangements are being made for their safe repatriation to Sri Lanka in the coming days. Foreign Ministry sources indicate that efforts are underway to rescue the release of the remaining 4 Sri Lankans as soon as possible. Thailand has previously facilitated the safe return of 58 Sri Lankans who were forcibly detained in cybercrime centers in the Mayawati area of Myanmar. Accordingly, so far 71 Sri Lankans have been rescued. Now in your business news, a total of 115,043 tourists have arrived in Sri Lanka during the first 2 weeks of February 2025. According to the weekly report issued by the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, the total number of tourist arrivals from the 1st of January to the 13th of February this year has been recorded at 367,804. 115,043 tourists have arrived in Sri Lanka from the 1st to the 13th of February. Citing numbers recorded last year, the Tourism Development Authority revealed that a total of 218,350 tourists arrived in February 2024. The total number of tourist arrivals from the 1st of January to the 13th of February this year was marked at 367,804. Meanwhile, the total number of tourist arrivals recorded during the second week of February was recorded at 53,376. According to the weekly report issued by the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority for the first 2 weeks of February, India became Sri Lanka's top tourism source market with 16,016 tourists arriving in Sri Lanka. The Russian Federation followed closely behind with 14,315, while the United Kingdom trails in third with 12,925 arrivals. According to data from the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, from the 1st of January to the 13th of February, 59,391 Indian tourists arrived in Sri Lanka. The Russian Federation with 48,411 arrivals and the United Kingdom with 34,655 arrivals followed India on the total number of arrivals from the 1st of January to the 13th of February this year. German, Chinese, French and Australian tourists too touched down in large numbers within the same period. Top executives of the Adani Group are set to reopen discussions with the Sri Lankan government next week on its renewable wind farms in Mannar and Punarine. The decision was taken days after the company announced its withdrawal from the country's wind energy project. It was reported that the Adani Green Energy will engage in fresh negotiations to revive two 484-megawatt renewable energy wind farms in Mannar and Punarine. A 220 kilovolt and 400 kilovolt transmission network to deliver power to the southern region of the country is also included in the project. The Sri Lankan government had been requesting Adani Green Energy to decrease its tariff rates, which was a sticking point in the negotiations. The Adani Group had pledged an investment of $442 million in the project, with $5 million already spent on pre-development activities. Before withdrawing, the Adani Group had held over 14 rounds of discussions with Sri Lankan authorities and secured approvals for a 20-year power purchase agreement. That's all the news we have for you tonight. Thank you. Have a great night.